Hi everyone, it's Susie. Welcome back. And if you're new, welcome to my channel, Dragonfly Beez Resell Journey. This is a different type of video. It's not a sale video, but it's a more like let's talk and learn together type of video. I'm going to talk about brooches, the history of brooches. Did you know it didn't start off as jewelry? It was first recorded back when it was made from thorns and flint, and it was used more so as a utilitarian item to secure clothes. So the first type of brooches were made of metal. I think they were more like safety pins, and they date back to the Bronze Age, which is 3000 BC. They didn't become ornamental until the Byzantine period, when they used brooches to fasten scarves and shawls. So I'm going to show you some photos of different types of brooches throughout different eras. And the first one is a Celtic brooch. They're also known as Viking brooches, and that was, believe it or not, 400 BC. They used these type of brooches to fasten cloaks worn by the Celts and the Vikings. And it was first seen in the early medieval times in Ireland and Britain. And it was a long pin attached to a ring. And here you'll see what type of pin I'm talking about. So let's talk about the Victorian era. Mourning brooches, yes, that was the rage. They were worn after a bereavement to commemorate a loved one who have passed. And they've been around since the 16th century, but the height of the popularity of the mourning brooch wasn't until the 18th through the 19th century. In early Georgian times, they were often placed in wills to be distributed to family and friends. In the late 18th century, mourning miniatures were really in style. So next you'll see an example of a couple of mourning brooches from the Victorian era, which is 1837 to 1901. This example of a mourning brooch is, this style comes in either a navette or oval-shaped pendant, and it is under glass. It shows a scene, a sad scene, and sometimes it's mounted on ivory. Here's another example of a mourning brooch, and inside this brooch is a lock of hair. And the seed beads that are mounted around the frame, they represent tears. Another type of brooch that was popular in the 17th to 18th century, but then again in the 19th and 20th century, were aigrette brooches. They're usually feathery shaped, set with flat-cut garnets or diamonds, either in silver tone or silver plate, and they detailed birds flying around flowers or a bloom. So in the next photo, you'll see an example of that. Another popular brooch that was fashionable in the 18th to 19th century was the Tremble type brooch. It was called I can't speak French, but I'm going to try, un tremblant brooch, which means tremble. And it's often a floral design, like a flowery spray. Think of that. And in the center, there's a mechanism that allows it to move when you wear it. And this was actually created before electricity. And here's an example of a really beautiful one. So another type of brooch that was popular in the latter part of the 19th century is the Grand Tour brooches. The Grand Tour was the standard European vacation for the upper classes. So think of Rome, Florence, Venice. Tourists would go and buy these types of souvenirs, and they include scenic subjects, flowers, animals, maybe birds, Roman architecture. And next, I will show you an example, and I'm basically talking about micro mosaics. Grand Tour brooches consisted mainly of two types of mosaic inlays, pietra dura, which translates into hard stone, and glass tessera. Hard stones that were used were lapis, turquoise, malachite, maybe aventurine, and they're used to create, think of it as a puzzle, and used to create these scenes, but usually on a black background. And that's what we call the micro mosaic technique, used to create like landscapes, birds, flowers. And it's crafted from using inlaid glass tessera, which is rods that are fitted closely together. Now look at this example. Isn't this crazy? That subject is basically made up of little tiny tiles. Really amazing. Next type of brooch is the cameo. Yeah, they date back to ancient times. They were even souvenirs from the Grand Tour period that I just talked about. But many people associate cameos with Queen Victoria. Why? Because she was crazy about them. She loved them. She even had cameos made up depicting her and her Prince Albert, and she gave them as gifts to her staff and members of the court. Now, when we think of cameos, we think of shell. We often see resin these days, but the best examples is the ones that you can see and feel the layers of the stone that's been carved, and it's actually made from hard stone. So in the next photo, you will see an example of just that. Next brooch I want to talk about is the love brooch, also known as the sweetheart brooch. They were given by soldiers to their loved ones back in World War One. They were made from sheets of silver, so they were really lightweight. So they used overlays of rose and yellow gold. It would depict lovebirds, double hearts. They were designed as tokens of affection. Some would have messages or names. So next you'll see an example of one, a love sweetheart brooch. The next type of brooch I want to talk about are dress clips. Yeah, they were popular in the 20s and the 30s because they were worn more than one way. You can pin your dress clips to your gown straps, your neckline collars, your cuffs, even your shoes or your handbags. Early Art Deco dress clips were even designed in platinum and white diamonds. And throughout the 20th century, high-end jewelry brands such as Cartier, Van Cleef & Arpels, Tiffany, David Webb, Van Dura, and more designed a huge range of this style. So next picture you're going to see is an example made up of diamonds, onyx, and platinum. Lastly, I want to make mention of three other eras that I did not talk about before, and the type of brooches that were very popular within those times. The first is Art Nouveau. That was a really short movement. It originated in France. That was approximately around 1895 to the beginning of World War One. The brooches were really vibrant in color. They were light and airy. It depicted nature, flowers, and even insects. And then next is the Edwardian period, which was the early 1900s. And their brooches had a lot of filigree, details that looked like lace, very decorative metalwork like raised beads, and even platinum was used. So the brooches of that period were really delicate and feminine. And then lastly is the Art Deco movement, which was in the 20s. So in the 20s, the brooches were really bright in color, lots of geometric patterns. They even added Egyptian and Indian influences to their designs. So, yes, this concludes my little brief history lesson about brooches, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please, if you did, give me that thumbs up and subscribe, as well as ring the bell and choose all notifications. That way, you'll be alerted when I post the brooch video. Thanks, everyone, for spending some time with me today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.